Hello guys, how are you today? So today I'll be explaining the math course practice section 4.5 for geometry, okay? So let's start with the first question. They told us the equation of the function graphed for 0 degrees, okay? X and 360 degrees is y sine what x. First of all, what does this mean? This means that the period is 360 degrees. Now, since the period is 360 degrees, that means every 360 degrees it repeats itself. But if you look at the graph, you will see that it repeats itself every 180 degrees. So, it's contradicting this over here. So let us write now the period of this graph. The period of this graph is between 0 degrees, okay, and 180 degrees. Now, very simply, to go to the 180 degrees, we need to divide by 2. But when we are dividing by 2, we are going to put it over here. You don't do divided by 2. No, you're going to do sine 2x. Okay, so let me repeat it again. One more time. We have our period is given to us, which is 360 degrees. That means every 360 degrees it repeats itself. But when we look at the graph, you will see that it in fact repeats itself every 180 degrees. So there is a contradiction. Okay, so this period over here is how much? 180 degrees. Now, very simply, to find this number, in my opinion, you do 360, the original period, divided by the final period that you found, and you are going to get the number 2. So very simply, put 2 over here. Now, usually, if you remember, we had sine. If you remember, sine was between -1 and 1, and cosine was also between -1 and 1. So if you look at it, here we are dealing with what? We are dealing with sine, so it has to be between -1 and 1. -1 is over here, and 1 is over here. But if you look at it, you will see it's not, It is not between -1 and 1. So to find out where it is, we are going to do a table, okay? Doing the table, here we are going to put x, and here we are going to put sine x. So for 0, first of all, if you do on your calculator sine 0, you are going to get 0. For 90, if you are going to do on your calculator sine 90, you are going to get 1. For 180, if you are going to do sine 180, you are going to get 0. Okay? Now, we're only going to do until 180 because this is our period that we found from the graph. Now, very simply, we're just going to come here and we're going to go to the angle 90 degrees. We know that sine x is how much? Is 1. Yes? Sorry, sine of 90 is how much? It is 1. So if you come here and you put the point at 90 and you go to the graph, you will see that it is at -4. So how does 1 become a -4? It is simply multiplied by -4. So that means you're going to put your -4 over here and your 2 over here. I'm going to repeat this because it's a very important concept. We have our period over here, which is 360 degrees. And here, if you look, you will see that the period is how much? 180 degrees. So to find this number over here, the number next to x, not next to sine x, next to x is what? It is going to be the original period, which is 360 degrees, divided by the final period, which is 180 degrees. So it gives us 2. Now, to find the number next to the sine x, what we are going to do, we are going to draw a table, and we are going to stop at where our period stops. So we're going to say x and sine x. Our period stops at 180, so we're going to do 0, 90, 180. Okay, then doing sine x, you're going to get 0, 1, and 0 again. Okay, so now if you go to 90, you go down always choose the one where there is a curve, okay? Don't choose the ones that are 0. Okay, so if you go to 90 and you go down, you will see it stops at -4. So how does the 1 become a -4? Simply by multiplying it by -4. So over here it's -4, and over here it is 2. Now we move on to question number 2. Again, we have something similar. Here, this is a bit complicated. Let me explain how they wrote the formula. This over here, if it is positive or negative, that means it goes up or down. It's a shift upwards or a shift downwards. Okay, this number over here that's multiplied by the sign, we already know it's negative. So if it's negative, that means it flips. Okay, it's opposite than what it's supposed to be originally. And this number over here determines if we have a stretch or a shift. Again, how do we know it's a stretch? Stretch has to be greater than 1. And if it is a shrink, it has to be between 0 and 1. Okay? So now, if we're gonna go here, let's first of all look at where the basic line is. Where is the basic line? How do you find the basic line? You're gonna choose 1 point from the beginning, okay, and 1 point from the end. They should be on the same line, by the way. The point at the beginning and the point at the end should be on the same line. Then draw the line, and you will see it is where it is at 1. That means if we already use what we use 0 as our basic line, as our baseline, as our initial line, whatever you want to name it. That means if it was 0 and it went up to 1, that means we shifted 1 unit upwards. That's the first box done. Second box, negative, we know it flipped. صح? But to know how much, we are going to take 1 point from the curve, for example here, and we are going to count the boxes. 1, 2, 3. So -3 sine x. Very simply. Okay? Again, I will do a quick summary. To find this number over here, we need to check our baseline. We will see is our baseline above 0 or under 0. Okay? Next step, minus, that means we know that it is flipped. Alright? Flipped about the x-axis, horizontal reflection. And then finally, to find the number multiplied by sine x, we count how many boxes are moved. So over here it is 1, and over here it is 3. Now we move on to question number 3. This is a nice question. It says, one of the points represented by a dot does not belong to the graph of y equals 3 tan x. What is the label of this point? First of all, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to write the equation over here. Y equals 3 tan x. That means you're multiplying the tan of x by 3. That means taking our baseline, we didn't move our baseline. Just look at it. See, did we move any units up or down? No, we did not. So that means what? Our baseline is the x-axis. That means you have to look at the points, okay? And we will see it's first of all, because it's tangent, you guys have to know in tangent it's an asymptote. I forgot how to spell it, but it's an asymptote, okay? What's an asymptote? It's like something that has a boundary. For example, if this over here is the boundary, it cannot cross this boundary, okay? Now, let us solve it and then we will explain it further. Now, to find the point of each exact one, let us start. First of all, minus pi. We know pi, if you remember from the previous chapter, pi was 180. Okay? Then if this over here is 180 and we are moving backwards, that means this over here is 135. Don't forget the minus. This over here is minus 90 and this over here is minus 45. Then from 0 we go to 45, 90, 135, 180, 225, 270. Okay, these are all of the points that we need so far. Next step we are going to do is we're going to put on our calculator 3 tangent and it will look like this. Okay, so 3 tangent, and then inside of the tangent you are going to put the numbers. So let's start with negative 180. 3 times tangent negative 180 is 0. So it's in the correct position. Then 3 times tangent negative 135 is 3. So it is in the correct position. Then 3 times tangent negative 90 is undefined. That means there should be no point here. Now, this is our first barrier. It will give you error, that means it is undefined. This is our first barrier. What's gonna happen if they ask you to join it? It's gonna be something like this. You know, it's never like it's gonna, you know, something like this. It's never gonna meet the boundary. It looks like it's coming close to the boundary, but it's never gonna meet it, you know? Then if we proceed to minus 45, we're gonna have 3 tan negative 45. We are gonna get minus 3, so it's in the correct position. Then 3 tangent 0 is 0. Then 3 tangent 45 is 3. Is it in the correct position? Yes. Then 3 tangent 90 again is error. That means this is our asymptote over here. Now we move on. 3 tangent 135, negative 3. Correct. Then 3 tangent 180, it is 0. So also correct. Then 3 tangent 225, it is then 3. So it's also correct. But now 3 tangent 270 will give you error, and they put a point over here. So this over here is the wrong one. This over here is the incorrect one because there should be no points because it is an asymptote. Okay? So the wrong point, the point that does not belong to the graph, is L. Put it capital, please, okay? We move on to question number 4. Again, we have a similar question. They told us one of the points represented by a dot does not belong to the graph of y is equal to 2 sine x. What is the label of this point? Very simply, we're going to do the same process again. We're going to zoom into the graph and we're going to write y equals 2 sine x. So again, we are going to do on the calculator 2 sine and put the value of the angle. This over here is minus 360 minus 270 minus 180 minus 90. Then here is 0, here is 90, 180, 270, then 360. Okay, putting it on the calculator, you're gonna have 2 sine. First of all, negative 360 is supposed to be 0, so it's correct. Then 2 sine negative 270 is supposed to be 2. It's also correct. Then 2 sine negative 180 is supposed to be 0. It's correct. 2 sine negative 90 is supposed to be negative 2. Correct. Then 2 sine 0. I believe it's 0. Yes, it is 0. Then 2 sine 90. Here we are supposed to have 2. They put it on 1, so definitely n is wrong. Then 2 sine 180 is 0. 2 sine 270 is negative 2 over here. And then finally 2 sine 360, it is 0 again. So the only incorrect point is point N. So let's submit and hopefully we do not have any mistakes. Thank God we don't have any mistakes. Thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful day.